Well, Lee and I have decided that we want to start a regular feature that we are calling the coffee corner moment, because you guys know how I love to always have an arrangement right here on the corner of my island in the kitchen. And we thought it would be fun to style a coffee moment showing what we are reading, what kind of floral display that I have going for that week. Maybe a candle will enter the vignette, and of course some coffee or some delicious beverage. So today our installment consists of something that really speaks to me, and that is a flower in bloom is equally sometimes as beautiful in a more poetic way when it's out of bloom. Case in point, I was looking out my office window at that Chinese snowball viburnum, and it's just beautiful. The flower heads, the seed heads, devoid of the petals, or maybe with just the remnants of the aging white petals on them. And I thought it really just had a poetic quality to it. So this is my first arrangement. So I got this basket plus thrift store find vessel, and I put in a floral frog, a wire floral frog, so that I could really position these 3 stems in varying heights in just a very kind of Japanesque way, I think. I think it's lovely in its simplicity, and it's something you can cut right from the garden. Just prune the branch off of whatever it is, your flowering shrub, whatever, slit it up vertically at the stem so it can ensure an uptake of water, and then just position it until you find it's very, very zen. Here is what I am reading this week. This is an oldie but goodie. This is Henry David Thoreau's Wild Fruit. I love the images in it, and of course everyone loves Thoreau. And then, well, let's just say I'm still deciding on what kind of beverage I'm going to be having. I think it's going to be a hot afternoon tea kind of day. It's still a little bit chilly outside, so there you go. Here is my floral vignette number 1 for today. Well, here is, well, let's just say if the other was a book moment, this is a magazine moment. This is where I like to look at through my different magazines. I kind of pull out my tear sheets. Anyhow, it's just a nice, cozy place for me to sit and do just that. So here is my second arrangement that I've got here on the dining room, or the kitchen table, I should say. And this was inspired by a picture that I found from a vignette I had composed at the other house. I had 2 beautiful grapevines that were flanking that wonderful bowl painting that I had hanging above the fireplace. So when I was at the farmer's market this weekend, I saw some grapevines there, and I got 2 of them. And at the cottage, I'm using them in different ways, one of them being right here at the table. And I've styled them with these wonderful glass candle holders that I have showed you before. I really like them, and I love the way they echo the color in the Monument Valley painting. And then I love also these sweet, sweet embroidered napkins that say Cottage on the Hill. You've seen these before, that my bestie Deborah got me for Christmas. So this is my arrangement floral moment number 2, and now let's move on to number 3. Well, here is the second place that I used one of those wonderful grapevines. I just love the way they look as a house plant. I love the funny little tendrils that they put out, and I love the way they arch. So when I select them, I look not only at the health of the foliage and the vine itself, but I also look at the way the plant is moving. I look at the movement of the plant and the way it is arching in a certain way that let's just say it will enhance whatever still life I create around it. Now, I've also got something here that I really want to show you. These are some of those sweet, sweet matches that my friend Michelle made for me. I've got them in these rattan baskets, and tomorrow on the Sunday show, we're going to show you more of her home, but we're also going to show you exactly how you can create these matches yourself. She provided just all sorts of wonderful ones in blue tones because that's kind of the vibe that I've got going here at the cottage. And I really like having this additional serving tray here. The other day I had someone over for tea and scones, and we had our tea here at the table. We had a little meeting, and then I was able to put the teapot and some of my other things right here on this little tray. So I like that. Now, my third floral moment, it just delighted me. I don't know how else to express it. It just delighted me. So I was deadheading all of that East Friesland salvia, and the seed heads were really almost as beautiful as the flowers when they were in full bloom. So when I saw them in the basket after I deadheaded them, I thought, I just can't just toss these. They're far too beautiful. So almost like you would do with lavender, I just took a bunch of the seed heads and I gathered them together and I put them in this wonderful blue transferware bowl that I just bought at an estate sale, and I love the way it looks. It's very reminiscent of lavender. I actually love the way dried salvia smells, and it's another way to perpetuate the beauty of that really useful plant. Now you say, well, if you like them so much, why did you cut them off? You could have just left them on the plant itself. Well, I cut them off because I want more of those fresh blooms to come out, to flush out and be beautiful in the front border. So this way I get a twofer. I can deadhead them to get future bloom, but I can also use them indoors, and I think they're really, really beautiful. The other thing is, when my friend Deborah was here the other day, she saw them in the basket and she said, oh, these are just beautiful. And I said, well, when I cut my last bunch, I will gift them to you. So I plan on taking a bouquet of them, putting a ribbon around them and suspending them from her front door as kind of a cut and run smile present. I think that'll be really, really sweet. So I guess the thematic of this is for the branches that I used in the kitchen, and for these salvia seed heads, these are easy, inexpensive things that we can cut from our gardens, and they just perpetuate the beauty of something that was beautiful in one form but remains beautiful in another.
Well, you guys, I am so excited that after a very long wait, this is the first time I've seen better boxwood available at our local nurseries and garden centers. So one of our followers actually told me that they had seen better boxwood at the Lowe's on the corner of 39th and May, and sure enough, they are here. Most of it, if not all, looks to be Skylight, and that's the one that grows tallest and widest. I have lots of it at the cottage. And it comes in both the smaller sizes and in the larger size, and at a great price point, I might add. $24.98 for the large ones and just $12.98 for the small ones. And you'll be able to find it because it's right next to the Sunshine Ligustra. And I saw lots of Encore azaleas too. So you guys, we've been waiting for a really, really long time to see it in the nurseries, and now I can say you guys can go to Lowe's and you can find better boxwood, the first blight resistant boxwood on the market, and maybe not the first, but the most highly bred boxwood to resist boxwood blight. So there you go, run, do not walk to Lowe's to get your better boxwood.
Well, as you just saw, better boxwoods are now becoming available in our nurseries and garden centers. I just saw some at Lowe's at a great price point. And why? Why am I so excited? Because these are blight-resistant boxwood, which we know is the first line of defense against battling boxwood blight. So there are 4 different varieties, and in my pots running up and down the steps and at the top of the steps, I have planted the one that you will most likely see first, and that is Skylight. It's hardy in zones 5 to 9. It will get, it will get tall, like 6 to 8 feet tall. tall and 3 to 4 feet wide, I believe. And why that's important to me is my boxwood balls will assume that wonderful globular shape almost immediately, more quickly with this variety probably than with some of the other varieties. So that is number one. This is Skylight, and I think it's beautiful, and look for it now at your Lowe's. Let's move on to the second variety. Well, Babylon Beauty is the second variety of better boxwood that I want to point out to you, and it's got a different growth habit. So these are going to get wider rather than tall. They are going to get 4 to 5 feet wide, which tells me that over time I can transplant one of these 3 into another location. And they will stay a little bit shorter at about 3 feet tall. So if you are wanting a low hedge variety, then I think this would be beautiful. I also like the way it has, when it's a little bit younger, it's got kind of a cascading form. This too is cold hardy, zones 5 to 9, and well, let's just say it is a true beauty. Now, if you're wanting something that will stay a little bit smaller, then you might want to look for Renaissance. Renaissance is going to get about 1 to 2 feet wide, 1 to 2 feet tall. It's going to stay smaller, and I love these smaller little balls that will begin to grow up and along this path. They really won't obstruct anyone's passage, but they will give that kind of green, glossy counterpoint that I like so much to some of the plants that have a different texture to them. Now, another thing that I like about these is just the beautiful foliage. All of the different varieties have this kind of really gorgeous glossy green, kind of a Kelly green, a little bit lighter than some of the other boxwood varieties green, and I think it stays looking this way and very, very fresh all summer long. So if you want something that will stay smaller, would make a very petite boxwood ball, or would grow a little bit lower in your zone 5 to 9, then I would definitely suggest Renaissance. Well, the last variety is Heritage. Now, obviously, I have these overplanted here. They started out in just 1 gallon pots because they were just ramping up production. This is Heritage, also hardy to zones 5 to 9. It's going to get 3 to 4 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet wide. So it's perfect for a hedge. And obviously, as these begin to mature, I'll be able to transplant some of them to another location. But this is a wonderful hedge material that you won't have to prune very frequently. It stays a little bit more compact than traditional boxwood, and more importantly, it has that same beautiful foliage that's blight resistant. So just pick your application, and there is a better boxwood variety that will suit your garden and that aspect in your garden. Well, today at the potting table, we are going to demonstrate how to plant a diamond spire gardenia, or something that I like to call movable fragrance, because I love when it's in bloom having the fragrance of a gardenia kind of waft no matter where you're sitting. And if I can make it movable, that benefits me in 2 different ways. Number one, I can move it to wherever it is we're sitting. So if we're sitting in the front, I can have it there, or if we're sitting here in the back, I can transport it easily in a lightweight container to the back patio. Now, another reason I like it to be mobile is because this is only moderately hardy. It's hardy from zone 7, I think, to 10, but you know, that's pushing it here. And I have discovered that with our weather extremes, I really want it to be able to move into the greenhouse in the winter time. So I want something that is good looking, that is lightweight, and that is mobile. So what we're going to do is we're going to pot up this gorgeous diamond spire gardenia. It's going to get, well, let's just see. Let's look. It's always a good idea to look at the care tag, to look at the instructions. This is going to get 3 to 4 feet high by 2 feet wide, full sun to part sun. And by the way, you guys, the entire gardenia collection at Southern Living Plants is really incredible. There's Scent Amazing, there's Jubilation, and I saw some of those at my local nursery here just recently. So I'd really encourage you guys to be on the lookout for them, because in addition to the fact that I want this here, I also think it would just make a brilliant Mother's Day gift. I've got a friend who really will have nothing in her garden if it's not fragrant. And she called me from Lowe's just yesterday asking me about jubilation. So I told her that indeed the fragrance is as wonderful as you would expect, and more importantly, the number of flowers it puts out is just spectacular. Okay, so how am I making this lightweight and mobile? Well, number one, I just had a bucket kind of sitting around, and it miraculously is going to fit just inside one of my Kobo baskets that was in my QVC line. Sadly, they're no longer available, but I've got some of these, and it nestles in here perfectly, and more importantly, it has handles and I can transport it, and I think that's really crucial. So in the bottom of my bucket, and this is true for any container planting, you guys, I just want to have some garden debris. That will take up space, it will take up volume, it will reduce the amount of potting soil that I have, and as importantly, it will break down over time and feed the plant itself. So I think I am going to go, forage a little bit more garden debris to put in the bottom of this container, and I'll be right back. So when I was talking to my son about this concept of garden debris, he said, well, exactly what do you mean by that? Well, enter another one of my baskets filled with said garden debris. Now, as I said, sadly, these baskets are no longer available, but if you want the same concept in a basket, you can get one of these garden trugs. These are absolutely brilliant. Leah just commented on it. Something just flew up my nose, I think. But we'll continue on. We're troopers. The show must go on. But she was talking about this and just how easy it was to transport the soil in it. But you can also, it's also a great catch-all for 4 types of garden debris like this. And so at the base of this, I'm going to put in some of it saddens me to do it, but I needed to start pulling out some of my pansies because it's already getting too hot for some of them. So I am putting some of those pansy carcasses in the bottom of this to just take up space. But again, this is good. First of all, they've still got lots of good soil on the root ball, so that's a good thing. But then this top stuff, you know, the green, the flowers or whatever, that's going to provide nitrogen as it breaks down over time. Okay, so now get this out of the way and get my beautiful garden gardenia. Look at these fabulous buds. Okay, these buds just make me so happy. And when I plant them, I want to make sure that they will keep, when I plant this, I want to make sure that those buds will keep on coming, because I know for a fact that they will, because this will bloom all summer if I keep it deadheaded. Well, actually, I don't even know that I really need to deadhead it, but I do need to keep it fed. So I'm going to loosen up the root ball a little bit. This one isn't too bad, but always with any kind of plant, you want to loosen up the root ball. Now, we actually watered this last night, but it was so windy that it already has pretty much dried out. So I'm gonna make sure that I hydrate this really well after I get it planted. Now, when I plant it, I want it to be at the same soil level in the pot as it was growing in its original container. And that will just about do it. I'm gonna center it to the extent I can. And then I'm just going to start backfilling it with a really good potting mix, whatever you use. And this, because I know that this gardenia wants a really good, quick draining or good drainage quality mix, good draining quality mix, that I have mixed my potting soil with maybe about another third of that Happy Grow mix. If you can't find Happy Grow, you can use maybe some fine pine mulch or add a little bit of compost to it just to lighten it up a little bit. Maybe even a little bit of vermiculite if you feel like your potting mix is a little too heavy, and sometimes they can be. So I'm just filling this in. Now I've got about another 4 inches to go until I reach the top of the container. And at this point, I'm going to give it a feed. And it will benefit from hollytone because gardenias like acidic conditions. And I know that it will like this acidic hollytone evergreen and azalea food. It's also good for gardenias. I'm seeing here, does it say that anywhere? No, it does not, but I also happen to know that gardenias like acidic conditions. And by the way, if your gardenia starts yellowing, it might be that you're overwatering it a little bit. If the leaves start turning yellow, it might also be that you're really leaching out a lot of the plant, the nutrients that is in the container itself. And so you want to make sure you replenish. Now this has instructions for newly planted containers, for newly planted potted plants. I'm having trouble with my words today. On the back of the bag. So I know it's going to require about a handful. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in, stabilize it, and then I'm going to come back in and finish top dressing it with the rest of the mix. Then I'm going to water it in really well. And the only thing I need to do at that point is decide where I want to put it so that when those blooms start coming out and expressing themselves in a beautiful gardenia fragrance, that it will be wherever it is I am perched. Or if you are doing this for a loved one, for Mother's Day or for a birthday or whatever, it makes a brilliant gift. And again, just make sure it's in something that's not prohibitively heavy for you to give someone so that they too can move it around in their garden spaces. So there you go, movable fragrance compliments of this Diamond Spire gardenia and a little bit of TLC and planting time from moi. Well, if diamonds really are a girl's best friend, then I have a recommendation for you. If fun thing one is to plant some movable fragrance, I just potted up this Diamond Spire gardenia in a container that's lightweight, and I can move it from here to there, wherever it is I'm sitting. Then I think it would be so fun. Fun thing number two, if you will, to plant nearby some Diamond Frost Euphorbia. It's frilly and is the perfect counterpoint to the blooms on the gardenia. So fun thing one, plant movable fragrance, and fun thing two, plant some Diamond Frost Euphorbia if you too are a believer that diamonds are a girl's best friend. Here's a quick tip, something I've noticed recently. Different care tags and Southern Living Plant Collection care tags in particular have started adding a QR code to, or QR, what is that called, Leah? Is it code? Okay, to the corner of their care tag, and all you have to do is scan it, and you will find all of the deets that it needs to be successful in growing this Diamond Spire gardenia. It will tell you how to water it, how to fertilize it, what light conditions it wants. So don't be too swift in throwing away your care tag. You want to hold on to it for future reference. Well, look at the beautiful, yes, coral blooms on this Coral Autumn Encore Azalea. I love the fact that these are dwarf, and really I don't have too much experience with the dwarf varieties of Encore. Most of the ones I have get taller than this, which will only grow like 2.5 feet tall by 3 feet wide. It will be perfect back here to provide kind of a ground cover and also contribute to the mounded look that I want in my design. Now, they performed beautifully in terms of a color palette with the tulips that I had blooming before. I had some El Nino tulips blooming back here, but they will continue, as we know, Encore azaleas continue to bloom not only in spring, but also throughout the summer on occasion and into fall. So I want them to be beautiful and coordinate from a color palette standpoint with whatever I plant next. So what did I plant next to replace the tulips? Well, in each corner, or let's say 3 corners of the back door or backyard living room, I've planted Akita dahlias, which I think will absolutely be beautiful companions to these coral Encore azaleas. So if you're looking for something to replace your tulips, something that will also have the same kind of stature that they do, but will bloom into the summer and into fall, then you might consider planting this coral Encore azalea with some Akita dahlias. While I'm down here underneath the canopy of this olive tree, here's my question of the day. Do you say dahlia? Do you say dahlia? Do you say, I don't know what else you could say, dahlia or dahlia? But let me know how you pronounce it in your neck of the woods. It's a fascinating thing, these regional differences. Okay, so I've got something in my head from a design perspective and also from a practical one. So one of the figs still made it on that side, but the one over here did not. And now that I've lived in this space for a while, I'm thinking about just tweaking some things to make it look like I want it to look in my head. So I love the lattice work across the top of the fence. I think it looks fabulous, but to me it almost looks a little truncated because it just stops right here, and now I'm not going to have anything nicely espaliered, plus the ability to get symmetry of 2 espaliered plants on either side would be very difficult. So what Kayla and I are talking about is framing out some of this lattice work, painting it identical to this, and having almost like 2 portraits, if you will, of this framed lattice. Then if I grow something in here like cherry tomatoes or really anything, or even at the base, I can then get it to cascade on the wall and over the lattice. But the lattice will be there year round, even in the winter, because it looks very, very bare in the winter and when there's not something growing, even after this stuff matures. So Kayla is, what are you gonna do? You're gonna be getting an estimate for me on.
First, we're going to lay it out on the wall,
Right.
to get the size.
Yeah. And so we'll get some just tape.
Just tape it off, see how big you want it, and we'll figure it up.
Yeah. We'll figure
Permanently
it out.
mount or to be able to hinge it.
Yeah.
Um,
So what she means by hinging it is probably obvious to some of you, but to me, before I knew this concept, it would not have been. So since this is wood and periodically it will have to be maintained, then what we did at my other house was we built a section of trellis, and then we put it on hinges at the bottom, and at the top I think we had hook and eye or something.
Yep.
So that then we can fold it down, and then we can paint it, maintain it, fix it or whatever, and then fold it back up.
right.
Same thing if some kind of debris gets behind there, or if I grow something on it and I need to remove dead stems, dead plant material, that kind of thing, then I can just fold it down. And by the way, this is a technique that works brilliantly if you're climbing roses, because it helps you maintain a wooden frame over time without uprooting or really disturbing the rose. It just kind of folds the rose back. So we're going to be looking at that as an option, but just picture, if you will, like 2 lattice work frames. And I don't think it will be too busy because it's just a continuation of what we have
Right.
existing, and this is something that we have done before. Now when she does that, or at some point in time, Kayla has assured me that we're going to fix this downspout of this gutter. But I think that it's like we've got all of this wooden beauty, and then it just kind of stops once we get over here, and there's not continuity of it until we get all the way back to the air conditioner surround. So from a design standpoint, I think that will look nice. Sometimes we even finish out the corners with finials. I don't know if we'll do that or not. That might be too fussy, but I think it could be really beautiful. So this is an idea that I just had last night, and I'm just bouncing it off of Kayla today. So she's my muse. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah, I think I kind of like it. Leah, what do you think?
I love it. Kayla's got her thinking cap on.
Yes.
I do, right. And,
Yeah.
and what you're saying about the winter time is so important, because just coming in and out checking on things through the winter, you hit that gate and you look down here and it's beautiful, even in the wintertime, and then your eyes carry and
Over here, and it's void of
just-
everything.
yes.
It's-
Everything just stops.
Yeah, because a lot of the things you see here are temperate, and they have to go inside into the greenhouse. So even though we'll have evergreen down here, I don't have any evergreen up here.
Right.
And I don't want to plant anything that's evergreen in this window box, because it is strictly for edibles. So that's, I think, what we're going to do. Kayla is going to work up an estimate for me, and this will probably be custom built, but this is a concept you can also use with,
Almost anywhere. You
Almost-
put it on post.
yeah, on post, but also it doesn't have to be custom built. You can get already constructed trellis, things like that, at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. Do the same thing, paint it to match the
Right.
surroundings of your home, and finish out a space. And I looked to see if there was anything there that was prefab, that was in this kind of lattice work, and I didn't see any.
Right.
So again, this is an investment, and yes, it will cost some money, but I'm not going to have to do this every year.
Right. This is a one and done almost.
Yeah, a one and done
Wood
kind of
is
thing.
wood. It deteriorates over time,
Yeah,
but we're not talking in 2 years.
yeah,
If we keep it painted and we keep the maintenance done on it like we need to,
Right.
it's going to still be hanging on that wall when
yeah,
we're not doing this anymore.
right. God forbid.
I know it.
God forbid. So that's what I'm thinking about right here. I know that it's very difficult this time of year for you guys to do construction because you're so busy, but most of the construction work on this falls into your purview, and so
And it's done in my barn on the weekend.
and it's in her barn on the weekend. So I think she knows this is a technique we've used before. At my other home, we have used it at clients' home, and so this isn't brain surgery. It's just taking that concept and bringing it over here to the cottage.
That's right.
So I think it could look really good. So that is just an informal. I just thought you guys might want to see this as we just talk through some things and some concepts and the design rationale behind it.
Yeah.
So there you go. We will keep you guys posted, and thank you, doll.
Thank you.
Well, I've often talked about designing by Tessy, and this is another way to give you some ideas and inspiration if you're wanting to do that kind of layering thing in the garden, in your flower beds, or also in your container plantings like I did in my window box. So this is just this pink moment, if you will, I think is just so sweet. So I started out with a Buddleia bloom from Butterfly Candy Raspberry. Then I added some Million Bells Calibrachoa. Look at that. Let me move these coffee pots or coffee mugs, because they're kind of ruining my pink moment. Then here I've got Little Miss Bonnie Spirea. I've got a Lilac Penta. I've got a Lilac Salvia.
Look at all those colors.
I've got a Wave Petunia.
And there's Mr. Saturated.
And then this little guy is not blooming yet, but I also have a hot pink periwinkle. And I think it just really makes a pretty pink moment. All of these really like the same type of growing conditions. And so if you wanted to use this as inspiration for some kind of layering in a container or in your garden, then I would highly recommend it. I think it's beautiful. I think it's summery. I think it's feminine and very romantic.